I walked away from my life when my cheating wife humiliated me at her family's reunion. 7 years later, I returned as a millionaire yacht designer with a bulletproof new identity. Then I discovered the devastating secret she'd been hiding. A son battling for his life who needed my help to survive. Now I'll save him and destroy the family that tried to ruin me. My name is Mason Wallace. I'm 42, and I build custom yachts for a living. Not the mass-produced fiberglass toys you see at your average marina. I'm talking handcrafted masterpieces with mahogany decks and brass fittings that start at 7 figures. I built my business from nothing, working my way up from a carpenter's apprentice at a local shipyard to owning Wallace Marine Designs, one of the most respected custom boat builders on the East Coast. My clients include CEOs, tech entrepreneurs, and old money families who appreciate craftsmanship over flash. I've always taken pride in working with my hands, creating something tangible and beautiful that will outlast me. It was at our annual Westbrook family reunion in Cape Cod when everything fell apart. Rebecca's family had gathered at her parents' sprawling beachfront property, all old money and polished appearances. I never quite fit in despite 7 years of marriage. The Westbrooks measured worth in family names and trust funds, while I had built my reputation on calloused hands and honest work. I was grabbing more chairs from the boathouse when my phone buzzed. A text from my production manager, Carl. The Henderson contract is ours. Their team just signed off. Celebration dinner tomorrow. I couldn't help the smile that spread across my face. We just landed a $2.8 million contract to build a custom sailing yacht, beating out Merritt Marine, the company owned by Victor Merritt, Rebecca's ex-boyfriend, and the man her family had always preferred she marry. When I returned to the main deck where dinner was being served, something felt off. Conversations stopped. Eyes turned to me with strange expressions: amusement, pity, discomfort. Rebecca stood near her father, wine glass in hand, mid-sentence. At first it was charming, right? The whole rugged craftsman thing. But honestly, trying to introduce Mason at the country club is like bringing a hammer to a chess match. She laughed, gesturing in my direction, though I'm sure there are dating apps for finding replacement husbands these days. The deck fell silent as I stood frozen, holding the folding chairs. 7 years of sideways glances, of being the outsider, of watching Rebecca gradually transform from the woman who once loved my ambition into someone embarrassed by my presence. It all crystallized in that moment. "Oh, honey," Mr. Westbrook chimed in, his voice slurred with expensive scotch. "Victor just expanded his manufacturing facility. He was asking about you at the club last week." The deck erupted in laughter. I set the chairs down quietly. Rebecca called out, noticing my expression. "Mason, it was just a joke." I didn't respond. Instead, I walked straight to our guest room, packed my suitcase methodically, and placed my wedding ring on the dresser. As I walked out the front door, I could hear Rebecca calling after me, then dismissing my departure to her family. "He's always so sensitive. He'll be back." I wouldn't. I walked away that day, determined never to return to a life where I was the punchline. Little did I know that fate would bring me back 7 years later, after I'd built a yacht-building empire and become the millionaire they never thought I could be, only to learn that Rebecca had been hiding something that would change everything. 3 weeks after walking out of the Westbrook family reunion, I sat across from my attorney in downtown Boston. I'd chosen this city deliberately for its distance from Connecticut and the Westbrook sphere of influence. "You're absolutely certain about this?" James Harmon, my lawyer and longtime friend, adjusted his glasses while examining the paperwork. I nodded firmly. "Complete disappearance. New identity." I know it sounds extreme. I slid a folder across his polished desk. Inside was evidence of threats I'd received from Rebecca's father after refusing to sign my company over to the Westbrook Family Trust last year. James whistled low. "Your business is finally taking off, Mason. That Henderson contract alone would set you up for. They find a way to take that too." I interrupted, my voice hardening. "I've spent 7 years watching how the Westbrooks operate. They'll crush me out of spite." James leaned back in his chair. "And Rebecca? No chance of reconciliation." The memory of her laughter as she mocked me still burned. "None." After signing the papers, I walked to my hotel along the harbor. My phone buzzed constantly. Rebecca, Carl, clients. I answered none of them. At midnight, I dropped my phone in a Boston harbor and watched it sink beneath dark waters. The symbolic gesture felt right, the old Mason Wallace disappearing, just as I would. By February, Jackson Reynolds existed on paper. New social security number, driver's license, background. My shipbuilding expertise couldn't be transferred directly, but my knowledge remained. I took a job at a small boatyard in Seattle, about as far from Connecticut as I could get while staying in the business. The owner, Frank Larson, recognized talent when he saw it. After my first month of quietly rebuilding a damaged vintage Chris Craft, he called me into his office. "You're wasted on repairs," Frank said bluntly. "I don't know what you're running from, but your work is exceptional. Just looking for a fresh start." I replied, maintaining eye contact. Frank nodded. "Well, your fresh start just earned you a promotion. I need a new lead designer. It's yours if you want it." My new apartment was small, nothing like the sprawling Connecticut home I'd shared with Rebecca. But for the first time in years, I slept without the weight of inadequacy pressing on my chest. 6 months after disappearing, I saw my face on a missing persons report online. The story painted me as potentially unstable, possibly a danger to myself. The Westbrooks had spun a narrative of a man who couldn't handle business pressure, who'd abandoned his thriving firm and loving wife. The article quoted Victor Merritt extensively. "I'm deeply concerned for Mason. We've had our professional rivalries, but I'd never wish this kind of breakdown on anyone." I closed the browser and returned to my drafting table. Let them think me broken. I was building something new, something they couldn't touch. 5 years after vanishing, Jackson Reynolds, once Mason Wallace, had become a partner at Larson Marine Designs. My distinctive yacht designs with their signature curved teak decks and innovative hull configurations had attracted attention throughout the Pacific Northwest. Industry magazines featured my work, and wealthy clients sought me specifically. "You should consider starting your own firm," Frank suggested over lunch at our favorite waterfront restaurant. "You've outgrown us, Jackson." I shook my head. "I appreciate what you've given me, Frank. Partnership is more than enough." The truth was more complicated. Launching a firm under my own name would increase visibility. Even with my new identity, a high-profile boat designer might draw unwanted attention from the East Coast. The Westbrooks hadn't stopped looking for me, not out of concern, but to protect their narrative. My silent partner in the disappearance, James Harmon, sent annual updates through secure channels. Rebecca had filed for divorce in absentia after 2 years, portraying herself as the abandoned wife. She had also married Victor Merritt the following year, consolidating the boat-building empire the Westbrooks had always wanted. They had a child now, a 4-year-old boy named Lucas. The information hit harder than I expected. Carl had been forced to sell our old firm for pennies on the dollar, crushed by the Westbrooks' business connections after my disappearance. The thought still brought a surge of guilt, but I made my choice. None of it touched me anymore. Jackson Reynolds had built a life without the shadow of inadequacy that had followed Mason Wallace. On the 7th anniversary of my disappearance, I received an unusual message from James. "They've hired a specialized investigator. Be cautious." 3 weeks later, while reviewing designs for a luxury sailboat, my assistant interrupted. "There's someone insistent on seeing you, Mr. Reynolds. A woman named Nina Roberts says it's about a private commission." The name meant nothing to me. "Send her in." The woman who entered wasn't a potential client. Mid-30s with sharp eyes that missed nothing, she assessed me calmly. "Mr. Reynolds, or should I say Mr. Wallace?" I kept my expression neutral. "I think you have me confused with someone else." She placed a folder on my desk. 7 years ago, you disappeared after a family gathering. Your wife has been searching for you ever since. I don't know what you're talking about. I've been in Seattle for nearly a decade." Nina smiled. "Your documentation is impressive, but facial recognition software has improved. A boating magazine featured you at the Seattle Boat Show last month. The algorithms found you." I leaned back. "What do you want?" "I was hired to find you. Now I have. They'll be here tomorrow. I've given them your address and workplace." "And what do you expect will happen?" Nina paused at the door. "That depends on whether you're still running, Mr. Wallace. For what it's worth, what they did to you was inexcusable. My empire had grown. I'd become the millionaire they never believed I would be. Now, they were coming, and I wasn't running any longer." At precisely 10:15 the next morning, the elevator to my floor pinged. I sat at my desk reviewing blueprints when my assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Mr. Reynolds, there are several people here insisting on seeing you." "A Mrs. Merritt," Mr. Merritt, and others. They don't have appointments. I took a deep breath. Send them in, Allison. The door opened, and 7 years collapsed into a single moment. Rebecca entered first, still elegant at 42, though lines of stress now framed her eyes. Behind her came Victor Merritt, more gray at his temples, but wearing the same self-assured expression. Following them were Thomas Westbrook, Rebecca's younger brother, and surprisingly, Carl Bennett, my former business partner. Mason. Rebecca's voice broke on my name. Her eyes were red-rimmed. It's really you. I leaned back in my chair, observing them with clinical detachment. It's Jackson, actually. Jackson Reynolds. Victor broke the silence first. You've done well for yourself, Wallace. Nice little operation here. Larson Marine is the third largest custom yacht builder in the Pacific Northwest. I replied evenly. Hardly little. Rebecca moved closer. Mason, please. We need to talk to you. It's important. Important enough to hunt me down after 7 years. I kept my voice neutral. What could possibly be so urgent? Our son, Rebecca whispered, tears spilling. Lucas is sick. Very sick. He needs you. I maintained my composure. You mean your son with Victor? He's not my concern. That's what we need to tell you. Carl interjected, stepping forward. Lucas is your biological son. For the first time, my facade cracked. Explain. Rebecca sank into a chair opposite my desk. After you left that night, I discovered I was pregnant. About 6 weeks along. I tried to find you, but you'd vanished completely. Victor's jaw tightened. When we married, I agreed to raise him as my own. The timing worked. No one questioned it. And now he's sick, Thomas added. Leukemia. He needs a bone marrow transplant. We've all been tested. None of us are compatible. So, you need my bone marrow, I concluded flatly. That's why you tracked me down. We're begging you, Rebecca said, fresh tears flowing. He's just a little boy, 6 years old. He's fighting so hard, but the doctors say, stop. I stood, walking to the window. Seattle sprawled beneath gray skies. You show up after 7 years expecting me to believe this story? The timing is suspiciously convenient. Carl placed medical records on my desk. It's all here. The diagnosis, the test results. Lucas doesn't have much time. I scanned the documents, the gravity of the situation sinking in. A son, my son, dying. Why did you bring him? I nodded toward Carl. I try to fight them. Mason, Carl said quietly. After you disappeared, Walter Westbrook threatened my family. They systematically canceled our contracts, blocked our loans. I faced them all. Let me be clear. I don't trust any of you. If Lucas exists, if he is my biological child, and if he is truly ill, I'll need verification from independent sources. 3 days later, I sat in a private room at Seattle Metropolitan Hospital reviewing test results with Dr. Eliza Kent, a specialist whom James Harmon had recommended for her discretion and expertise. The paternity test is conclusive, Dr. Kent confirmed, pointing to highlighted sections. 99.99% probability that you're Lucas's biological father. And his condition? I asked, keeping my voice steady. Dr. Kent's expression grew somber. The diagnosis is accurate. Acute myeloid leukemia, aggressive variant. He's undergone 2 rounds of chemotherapy with minimal response. A bone marrow transplant is his best chance. And I'm a match. A 9 out of 10 HLA match, which is excellent for a parent-child relationship. Not perfect, but very promising. James, sitting quietly in the corner, finally spoke. They're not lying about this, Mason. The boy is truly ill, and he is your son. I stood, pacing the small room. 7 years of carefully constructed walls threatened to crumble. The Westbrooks had found my one vulnerability, a child I never knew existed. What if this is just step 1? I thought aloud. I provide bone marrow, save the boy, and then they use him to drag me back into their world permanently. That's a distinct possibility, James acknowledged. The Westbrooks don't do anything without multiple angles. I made a decision. I want to see him. Not with him present. Just the boy. Dr. Kent nodded. I can arrange that. He's at Connecticut Children's in Hartford. I can have privileges transferred and bring you in as a consulting physician. 2 days later, I stood outside a hospital room in Hartford, dressed in a doctor's white coat with an ID badge identifying me as Dr. Jackson Reynolds. Through the window, I could see a small figure in the bed. Dark hair like mine, pale skin, animated despite the 4 lines as he played a video game. Dr. Kent appeared beside me. He's having a good day. The nurses say he's quite the fighter. Does he know about me? They've told him a compatible donor has been located. Nothing more. I took a deep breath and entered. Lucas looked up, pausing his game. Are you another doctor? He asked, assessing me with startlingly familiar eyes, my eyes. Something like that. I replied, approaching the bed. I'm Jackson. I'm Lucas. Are you here to poke me with more needles? Because I'm kind of on a boss level right now. Despite myself, I smiled. No needles today. I just wanted to meet you. Are you the one who's going to give me new bone marrow? Possibly. Lucas tilted his head, studying me with unnerving intensity. You look like me. Mom has a picture of a man who looks like you, but she keeps it hidden in her dresser. I froze. Does she now? Yeah. She looks at it sometimes when she thinks no one's watching. She gets sad after. The bone marrow donation procedure went smoothly. As I recovered in my hospital room, I received an unexpected visitor, Carl Bennett, my former business partner. The nurse said you were awake, Carl said awkwardly, standing in the doorway. May I come in? I gestured to the chair beside my bed. You're the last person I expected to see. Carl sat, his posture tense. I needed to talk to you. Away from the Westbrooks. Away from Victor. About what? About what really happened after you disappeared. Carl leaned forward, lowering his voice. They didn't just destroy our company, Mason. They destroyed me. Made sure I'd never work independently again in the industry. So you joined Merit Marine, I observed coldly. I had no choice. My wife was pregnant with twins. Victor offered me a position with one condition. I had to sign over all our old intellectual property. Our designs, I realized. The Henderson yacht. Carl nodded miserably. Merit Marine took credit for everything we developed. The curved teak decking system, the stabilization innovations, all of it. This explained why their recent yacht designs looked familiar. They were mine, stolen through corporate manipulation. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm tired of living under their thumb. Carl pulled out a flash drive. This contains internal documents from Merit Marine, financial records, client communications, design thefts, not just from us, but from other builders too. I took the drive, suspicious. What do you expect me to do with this? Whatever you want. I don't care anymore. Carl stood. My kids are 10 now. They deserve a father who can look himself in the mirror. After Carl left, I inserted the drive into my laptop. Hours passed as I examined the contents. Comprehensive records of corruption, design theft, permit bribery, and more. It was a roadmap to destroying Merit Marine, and by extension, the Westbrooks. But something nagged at me. The information was too perfect, too comprehensive. Why would Carl have access to all this? I called James. I need background surveillance on Carl Bennett for the past week. Who has he met with? Who contacted him? The answer came that evening. Carl had met with Walter Westbrook twice and Victor Merritt 3 times before delivering the flash drive. It's a trap, I muttered. The files were genuine. That much my initial analysis confirmed. But the act of accessing them would leave digital footprints. If I used this information, I would be implicated in corporate espionage. The old Mason might have fallen for it. Jackson Reynolds knew better. The hospital chapel was empty when I arrived at 7:55 p.m. I chose a seat with clear sight lines to both entrances and waited. At precisely 8 p.m., the door opened, revealing the last person I expected, Elizabeth Westbrook, Rebecca's mother. Thank you for coming, she said, settling into a pew across the aisle. At 67, Elizabeth remained elegant, her silver hair perfectly styled, her posture regal. Curiosity outweighed caution. I replied, "What do you want, Elizabeth?" She studied me with calculating eyes. "You've changed." The man who married my daughter would never have spoken so directly. 7 years changes people. Indeed. She opened her handbag, removing a slim file. "I've brought something you should see." I made no move to take it. "Why would you help me?" "Because Walter has gone too far. Using a child, my grandson, as leverage." Her voice hardened. "There are boundaries, even in our world. Your husband has never recognized boundaries." "No, he hasn't." She placed a file on the pew between us. "But I do, especially when it comes to family. To Lucas." I realized, this is about protecting him. Elizabeth nodded. "Walter sees the boy as another asset. Victor sees him as a burden. Rebecca sees him as her only remaining value to the family. No one sees him as a child who deserves better. Cautiously, I picked up the file and opened it. Inside were legal documents, custody arrangements, guardianship transfers, medical authorizations, all designed to give Walter Westbrook complete control over Lucas, particularly his medical decisions and inheritance trust. They're using his illness, I said quietly, anger building as I read. Setting up a structure where Walter controls everything, including experimental treatments. My husband sees Lucas's condition as an opportunity. The boy's genetic makeup, half Wallace, half Westbrook, interests certain research colleagues of Walter's. Rare combinations, unique genetic markers. He wants to turn my son into a research subject. I realized, horror dawning. These authorizations would allow tissue sampling, experimental protocols, all in the name of seeking cures. Very noble sounding. Very profitable for Walter's biotech investments. I closed the file, my decision made. Why show me this now? After all these years of complicity. Elizabeth stood, smoothing her impeccable suit. Because I've spent 40 years enabling that man's ambitions. I've watched him sacrifice our children on the altar of legacy. I won't watch him do the same to my grandson. As she reached the door, I called after her. I'll deny this meeting if asked. She paused. As will I. The question is, what will you do with the information? After she left, I sat alone, formulating a plan. Walter wasn't just after control. He was building a medical research empire with Lucas as a centerpiece. I needed to act decisively, not just for revenge, but to protect my son. 1 week later, I stood in the doorway of Lucas's hospital room, watching him pack his belongings. The bone marrow transplant had been surprisingly successful, with his body accepting the new cells with minimal complications. The doctors had cleared him for discharge with regular outpatient monitoring. Ready to go home? I asked. Lucas looked up. Which home? Mom's or yours? Your mother's for now, but I'll be nearby. I've rented a place in Hartford while we sort everything out. I had decided to stay, at least temporarily. Watching Walter Westbrook's carefully constructed plans collapse had become personal, beyond my original revenge. Over the past week, I had set in motion a comprehensive strategy. Dr. Kin had filed for emergency medical oversight due to conflict of interest concerns, citing the experimental protocols Walter had lined up. Simultaneously, James had contacted the SEC whistleblower office about Walter's biotech connections and insider trading. We'd used the information from Elizabeth, but carefully, through channels that couldn't be traced back to me. Will you come visit me? Lucas asked, interrupting my thoughts. Every day, I promised. And soon, you'll visit me too. Rebecca appeared in the doorway behind me. She looked different, subdued, without the polished Westbrook veneer. The car's ready whenever you are, she said to Lucas, then turned to me. Thank you. For everything. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. We'd established an uneasy truce for Lucas's sake. What Rebecca didn't know was that I had already filed for partial custody, with evidence of Walter's plans as leverage. As we helped Lucas gather his things, my phone buzzed with a text from James. Operation Undertow initiated. SEC investigating all 3 Westbrook biotech connections. Everything okay? Rebecca asked, noticing my expression. Perfect timing, I replied. Lucas, how would you like to stop for ice cream on the way home? Before lunch, Lucas asked skeptically. Special circumstances call for special treats. As we left the hospital, I caught sight of Nina Roberts in the parking lot, nodding slightly. The investigator had become an unexpected ally, disgusted by what she discovered about the Westbrooks' intentions for Lucas. By evening, the full scope of my countermove had become clear. Walter Westbrook faced inquiries from 3 regulatory agencies. Victor Merritt was fielding questions about permit irregularities and design patent violations. Through it all, I maintained my composure, helping Lucas set up his new model boat building kit, discussing preliminary plans for him to visit Seattle. The irony wasn't lost on me. The model boats were Merritt Marine Designs, originally my innovations, now being built by my son. Dad, Lucas said, the word still new and startling to my ears. Can I ask you something? Of course. Are you and Mom going to fight a lot? Because I don't want that. I put down the piece I was working on. Your mom and I are going to work together to make sure you're happy and healthy. That's what matters most. 3 months after Lucas's successful bone marrow transplant, I stood with him on the observation deck of my latest custom yacht. The 72-foot vessel gleamed in the morning sun as we cruised Long Island Sound. "Did you really build this whole thing?" Lucas asked, his eyes wide with wonder as he ran his hand along the polished teak railing. "With my team, yes," I replied, watching his face light up. "This one's called Second Wind. She's our newest design." Lucas had been spending weekends with me for the past month, part of our new custody arrangement. 1 week with me every month, plus alternating holidays. The transition had been smoother than expected, with Lucas adapting to the new reality with remarkable resilience. "How do you like staying at my place?" I asked as we moved toward the helm. "It's awesome," Lucas enthused. "The workshop downstairs is the best part. Can we work on our model boat when we get back?" "Absolutely. We'll finish the hull today." As Lucas eagerly took the wheel under my supervision, I reflected on the changes of the past months. The Westbrook Empire had collapsed spectacularly. Walter faced multiple federal indictments for securities fraud, insider trading, and research violations. Victor had accepted a plea deal, implicating others to reduce his own sentence. Thomas had entered rehabilitation for substance abuse issues. Rebecca had surprised everyone, including me. Freed from both Walter's control and Victor's manipulation, she had returned to her original passion, marine conservation, securing a position at an institute in Hartford. The woman who had once defined herself entirely through her family name was cautiously building an independent identity. "Dad," Lucas called, pulling me from my thoughts. "Can I ask you something?" The word "dad" still caught me off guard each time, a warm shock to my system. "Of course. Are you still mad at Mom for what happened before?" I considered my answer carefully. "I'm not mad anymore, but some things can't be undone or forgotten. Like when Victor broke my remote control boat and said sorry, but never fixed it. Something like that," I replied, impressed by his perception. "But your mom and I are committed to giving you the best of both of us. That's what matters now." Lucas nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Good, because I made something for both of you." That evening, as we worked in my home workshop, Lucas presented his creation, a detailed wooden model of 3 boats connected by miniature docks. "This one's your boat," Lucas explained, pointing to the largest vessel. "This one's Mom's, and this smaller one in the middle is mine. See how they're all connected? So I can go between them easily." The thoughtfulness of the design, the way Lucas had processed his new reality and created something beautiful from it, moved me deeply. "It's brilliant," I said softly. "You have real talent. Mom says I get that from you," Lucas replied proudly. "She's keeping all my designs in a special folder at home." 1 year after returning to my former life, I stood on the deck of my newest yacht design, the flagship vessel that would redefine Wallace Marine Designs. The 90-foot Legacy represented everything I'd learned in my years away and everything I'd built since returning. The Connecticut shoreline stretched before me as I considered how completely life had changed. Jackson Reynolds still existed legally, but Mason Wallace had reclaimed his rightful place, stronger and wiser than before. Walter Westbrook had been sentenced to 15 years for financial crimes. Victor Merritt had received 5 years, with his company assets liquidated. Most satisfying was the final outcome. Through a series of strategic acquisitions facilitated by James, I now owned everything they had stolen from me. The designs, innovations, and client relationships built on my stolen work had come full circle. The custody arrangement with Rebecca had evolved into something unexpectedly functional. Lucas spent equal time with each of us, thriving under the arrangement. He had developed a genuine talent for boat design, already creating concepts that impressed my senior designers. "Dad, the caterers are asking questions," Lucas called from the main cabin, interrupting my thoughts. Today marked the official unveiling of Legacy to the industry and select clients. More importantly, it was Lucas's 7th birthday celebration. "Coming," I replied, taking a final moment alone before rejoining the gathering. Rebecca approached as I entered the main cabin. She'd changed this past year, becoming more authentic without her family's toxic influence. "It's quite something," she said, gesturing to the yacht. "You've created a masterpiece." "Thank you," I replied simply. We'd found a measured peace, not friendship or forgiveness, but mutual respect for Lucas's sake. "Mason," she said hesitantly. I want you to know I'm truly sorry for everything that happened. That night at the reunion, my family's manipulation, all of it. I studied her face, seeing genuine regret. We can't change the past, Rebecca. But we're doing right by Lucas now, and that's what matters. Lucas appeared between us, eyes bright with excitement. Come on, everyone's waiting to see the boat. As I guided investors and industry leaders through the vessel, explaining innovations and design philosophy, I caught sight of Lucas proudly showing his grandparents, Rebecca's mother Elizabeth and my own mother, who had flown in from Ohio, his contributions to certain design elements. Later, as sunset painted the sky in brilliant oranges and reds, Lucas stood beside me at the helm. Dad, are you happy you came back? He asked suddenly. The question gave me pause. Yes, I answered truthfully. Not for the reasons I expected, but yes. Because of me, he asked with a child's directness. Because of you, I confirmed. And because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what hurt you, but building something better in its place. Lucas considered this with unusual seriousness, then nodded. Like how we rebuilt that old sailboat model instead of throwing it away. Exactly like that, I said, resting my hand on his shoulder as we watched the shoreline in comfortable silence, the future stretching before us like an open sea.